Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Elhamdülillah Rabbil alemin. Ve salatu ve selamu ala Resulina Muhammedin ve ala alihi ve ashabihi ecma'in. Allahümme zidna ilmen ve aleyhina bisalihin. Okay, I will concentrate on two concepts, worldview and education. How worldview is related especially to education. It's a concept on which I have been working since 1990. And even earlier. This concept was actually, if we follow the history of it, they think it is mainly developed by a German philosopher, Immanuel Kant, which was in the epistemological sense. They say he used the first time the word Weltanschauung, as you know, in German, means world perception. But I checked his books, I couldn't find anywhere. Even the references, what they mean is actually the idea is there, but the concept is not there. But definitely the idea is there, you know, because I always argue that Kantian epistemology fits perfect into Islamic understanding, Islamic framework. But it has a lot of, shortcomings. And those shortcomings should be modified by our thinkers. And they did modify it, actually. So I will not go into those details and try to elucidate this concept as much as I can. As I continue, if you have questions, you can stop and ask me. If you think, no, I can wait until I finish, then no problem. We can discuss at the end also, inshallah. More or less, I adjusted myself for about, 50 minutes or so, maybe 1 hour. I hope this doesn't bore you. So that is why I say, if you want, you can stop me and ask questions. We can continue, inshallah, that way. There is one question that we would like to start with. The question is something like this. Why do we act the way we act? Why do we behave the way we behave? This question is extremely fundamental, especially when you consider, Islamic fiqh is based on this question, really. A'mal, they always say, all the fuqaha, they think they are concerned. A'mal meaning human behavior, human conduct. Because after amanu, always amilu salihat, as emphasized in the Quran and in the sayings of the Prophet ﷺ, and all our scholars even, they say, ilm without amal means nothing. So that is why then we have to, see why do we act the way we act. We can start giving reasons for that, the causes of this action. Some of these we can see the reasons for it. But even if we see those things, there might be things that we don't see still behind that. So we have to classify them as observable and non-observable causes of human behavior. I thought, level by level we can list something like this. For example, it could be the causes of action could be observable and also concrete. Namely, we can see it. We can observe it, we can see it. So concrete reasons of human behavior, these are also biological. If you see someone, doing like this and things, and you say, are you hungry? You can see it, right? Or if you see a flush on his face, you say, are you angry? Or you see pale, you say, are you sick? Right? So these things you can see. These are mainly biological. And this is the starting point, at the bottom level. Second, if you continue more and more, you see it becomes deeper and deeper, right? It could be observable and concrete, but now it's not biological. Certain things happening around. It could be, I will probably say this a few times because in my seminars also, if you followed, I know some of you are following already, the English word, the word English nature, I hate that word. causing the gravest problems for us, for Muslims, for the humanity in general. Just the other day I was in another meeting, and they said, oh, nature has given us so many things. He's so generous. I said, where's nature? Can I see that generous person? I can hug and kiss him so much, nature. And they started, said, don't you know nature? I said, no, I don't know. I have never met him. I mean, how? Because for something to be generous must be a conscious being. But where is it so I can say I can kiss him, hug him, thank him and things? And they just baffled, this, unfortunately this idea became very strong, I don't want to go into its history. It's coming from Greek philosophy, from Aristotle actually. And it continued and strengthened itself in the 19th and 20th centuries, in the West especially. Muslims never used it. They never used tabi'ah. When I say, some of you say, well, they use, Aristotelians use it. But you see, because they are Muslims, when they use it in an inactive sense, not in an active sense. So they usually use it, tabi'ah, to refer to environment, not something that is acting actually. And even in the translations from Greek into Arabic, when they noticed that Aristotle is using it in an active sense, they did not translate it as tabi'ah. They translated it as taba'. And taba', as you know, it is inactive. It has to be created, right? So it's a created nature, in other words. So I don't like it, but unfortunately in English, if I use the word fitra, no one will understand it. So a lot of times, I have to use nature and explain, put an explanation, or in parentheses, the Arabic word fitra. We can start using it in English, so what's wrong with that, anyone who has become even our brothers and sisters, from England, they should avoid it. They shouldn't use it. They should use fitra, the Arabic terminology, because Arabic terminology is revealed. It comes from revelation. It's divine. Of course, it's human language, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has given the meaning of it for us, so now we understand it when we say fitra. So I will try to use that as much as I can. Fitra, fitri, these concepts are a lot better. So
how do you translate fitra in English?
One translation the other day somebody used that was very good. I know they translate as like original nature or something like that.
But still there is nature there.
But still there is nature. You cannot avoid. There is no word in English for it, you see. That is why I always say, yeah, the best scientific language is Arabic. In any human language, I mean, the best one is Arabic. It's most scientific and it is also divine, When I say this, someone will oppose, say, it's human language, why do you call it divine? Because with the revelation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala modified their meanings. It's our language, it's human beings, of course, they developed it. We even developed new terminology in Arabic. Every Muslim, whether Arab or non-Arab, they contributed to the development of the language. So, but then the original modified by a divine revelation. Yeah, this is
not translated it, but the best that we can come up with this is that we did civil association. It's innate purity. That's innate purity.
In what?
yeah.
Innate purity.
Innate purity. These are very good. At least you are not using nature. So, excellent, I think, yeah. Inborn purity, something like that, inborn. Even taba, I don't know how do you translate taba in English. You cannot translate, right? It's you have to use nature, but it doesn't mean nature, So it means a physical structure, right? Something like that. So anyway, you will see from now on I will use, but I give my lectures in different places also that there are non-Muslims. If I use these words, they don't understand. So I have to explain it to them. You know, I say whenever I use nature, I don't mean the English meaning. So I have to explain it. So as a result, these environmental factors we can also observe. And therefore they are also concrete. But we have to be careful, you know, on every human action, you can observe concrete, observable things, but they don't make up the complete causes or reasons for the action. There are always something behind that we cannot see, you know, so that means we have to continue. We can see some observable ones, but they are not concrete. This is another thing. You might say, how come? You know, you say observable, it has to be concrete. No, it is not concrete. It is rational. You reason out, you analyze, then you reach the observable. Because of you still observe the person, how she acts, and then on the basis of that you say, oh, okay, because something like this happened, you know, he's holding his stomach, so I can tell. So this is, you observe it, but the reason, you know, is not concrete. So as you can see, we go higher and higher. There is something non-observable. If it is non-observable, that means it's not concrete anymore. There are certain things. So for those things are, of course, psychological. So from human psychology, because we have the same psychology. So some of the things actually, since all human beings are created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our fitra is universal. It's not individual. But although universal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He never creates one thing two times. You see, because this shows His greatness. And it shows how much His ilm, His knowledge, you know, hikmah and everything. As you know, no two persons, even if you have two brothers and sisters, their fingerprints are not the same. Even fingerprints, can you imagine? Their psychology, their look, when you look, you say, oh, no, they are same, they look similar. They look similar, but they are not the same. Even the twins, you know, they are not same. So, as a result, there are universal things in our fitra, but then we are created as individuals. There are differences. Always there are differences. So because of this, we can guess the psychology of the person, but we cannot be sure that it is exactly the same. So as you can see, that means it becomes more and more difficult. Then there is another higher level, which can be, the first one can be analyzed psychologically, but the second one can be analyzed logically, rationally. You can reason out, why did she do this? You know, because his situation is like that. He doesn't feel good. He's, you know, something, he has this thing. He had a lot of needs that he had to fulfill and so on. So that means there are rational reasons for that also. If we count all of these things, we can go something like that, you know. We can say biological reasons for the action, environmental from the, around, emotional, psychology, his mind, things that are in his mind, and the highest level, spiritual. This is almost impossible, to evaluate and analyze. It is extreme. It has different workings. But we have to consider that also. That could be some spiritual things, the way he acts like that. We can give examples. You can think. If you cannot, then we can analyze it later on. But I am not concerned with all of these things. They all has to be, separately analyzed. I am concerned with big capital letters, worldview. So that is things that are in our mind. This is extremely important. All of these things are important, But the most important things are probably, we would say, worldview and the spiritual things. The spiritual ones we leave for another time, inshallah. It's also part of the worldview, actually. In some respects, it is part of the worldview. So this is what I am going to try to, inshallah, discuss and analyze together with you. So the concept of worldview, how can we explain it? I usually give this definition. I can explain it. Let's read it together. The scheme of constructive conceptual unity in which our mind perceives everything is worldview. So this is my definition of worldview. But I need to explain it. The first thing, the scheme is like, it is like a framework. When the framework is like a window. Your window is round. When you look outside, you see everything round. If it has pink glass, you see round, pink, everything. And it depends, if it has magnifying effects on the glass, you see things closer, and so on. You can just imagine, in your mind. So schemes are like that. But these are mental schemes. It's not physical again, because we are now entering into human mind. Worldview is in the mind always. It's not outside. Every human being has a worldview. Because I am saying, you see, in this definition, that our mind perceives everything through our worldview. Which means, if you don't have a worldview, you cannot perceive anything. It makes no difference. Even if you have 10 eyes, you cannot see anything. You don't see with the eye. You see with the worldview, actually. The eye provides the physical needs for the worldview. It's like you become like a zombie if you don't have a worldview. You will look around, but you don't know what to do. You just look like this. You cannot move, you cannot do anything. Alaikum salam.
I just have a question. I saw other schemes like this, and sometimes the word identity is used. Would that be the same as the worldview?
Yeah, worldview provides our identity. But identity is just one part of it. The identity is not the whole worldview. I will come to that also, inshallah. Yeah, see how it provides our identity. So I need to explain constructive. As you know, in English, it's a construction. That means we construct it. It's constructed. It is constructed in two ways, by the way. One, it is constructed in such a way that we are not aware of it. You never think of it, in other words, because your mind works, again, I will use a word which I don't like, but I'm sure you will understand why I don't like it. But if I use it, it's easy to understand. That is why I have to use it. Then I have to object myself. Why did you use that word? It is wrong. So I say, our mind by itself constructs the worldview. This word by itself is kufr, actually, to use it. Because it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that makes it work. So it is fitrah. So that means it is not in our hand. All our bodily functions are run by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not by us. Not by your body, not by your biology. That you should be aware of this. Otherwise, it wouldn't. It's impossible. I mean, actions that take place in your body, according to biology that I read, they say, millions of things are taking place in just 1 second. In just 1 second, the cells going, moving, from your brain, the activities, all those things, millions of them. How can the body carry out these things? Because all these things, if one of them fails, you will die. If just one of them, I mean, can you imagine? So the chance is too low. That is why it cannot work by itself. It's impossible. So of course the doctors, these naturalist scientists, when they investigate, they say, it produced this, hormone. That hormone affected this one, the brain, it is like this. They don't do it actually. They are only describing how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is creating, but they are not aware of it, right? So this is the thing. So when I say by itself, I hope you understand it. I don't mean that in the true sense, because otherwise it will be shirk. Sometimes it can be kufr also, to say something like that. If you see in the past, our scholars, they so much pay attention to this that they developed their spirituality so much that when they looked in their body, they have seen that, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Why do we say something like that? You see? Because I am not the one that is running my body actually. I haven't done it. They usually avoided saying, I did it, I went, I walked. I was made. I was given. I was inspired, and I was, it is an ihsan that is provided, and so on. And especially, they says, oh, I am so lucky, how.
There's some misconceptions going on due to this, because the concept of guna and sabab has been modified now. Like, people used to argue that if we are being directed by Allah all the time, then He actually directed us to do guna, but He directed us to do sabab. It's not in our head. I think it's serious. So we have to convince little children for that. So what would you say about it?
You mean we have to convince people that?
Yeah, there's some akal there. We have to use it. Like, we can always blame Allah for doing like sins and sabab.
Right. If you explain very well that and look at your actions, you analyze that, you will see only one thing which you make. We always make one thing. So that means it's very small. And it makes us responsible for what we do. For example, we eat, right? When we eat, what we make is just we make a choice to choose what we want to eat. But as soon as we choose eat, we swallow, finished. You cannot do anything anymore. If you want to run your stomach, if suppose one day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He told you, I give you to run your digestion. Okay, you are free now, you run your digestion. You say, okay, I'll start doing it. When you start, you go into the stomach, and then you see you have to measure how much food you ate, and then measure, and then say, okay, 10 milligram of acid, and then 2 milligram. How are you going to measure 2 milligram? I am telling you, you see, that's why, this is miracle. 2 milligram of this hormone. But when you do that, the stomach says, no, I don't want to do it. You have to tell your brain to give me, command so I can produce it. I'm not going to. You are not in control of me. So then you have to go back to your brain. You say, okay, brain, please give the, command for the stomach. And when it gives, you say, suddenly runs, instead of 10 milligram, it gives 50 milligram of acid and starts burning your stomach. And you start messing up, you see. Just 10 of the things that the stomach is doing, if you try to do it, you will fail it. It's impossible. The body is not ours. The body does not belong to us. It is an amana. It's a trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. Okay, I give you this body, you enjoy it. So your enjoyment is yours. And I give you free choice. Choose whatever you want, but you are responsible. Don't tell me, why did you make my body like this? Because I do it, whatever you tell me to do it. In a sense, we are telling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, I have chosen, this is, we say lisanul hal in Arabic. With the lisan, the hal, language. This language of the state in which you are telling as if, Ya Allah, I want something like this, can you do it please for me? Your body is something like that, you see. But these are all spiritual things, you know, that many people, I mean, how can you explain this to a Westerner? You have to train him very well until they are able to understand it. Because they have not developed these abilities. Muslim scholars, they develop these abilities. That is why Islamic civilization is at the highest level of spiritual civilization. It's not rational, it's not natural, it's not physical. It is at the highest level. Even many Westerners, when they think they accept this, they do say it. You know, you see like Henry Corbin, Nicholson, Arbery, you read their books, you'll see, they will say, many others of course, they will say this. So by training you can feel all these things. So as a result, it's not just you know, rational thing. So that means we have, you know, we have criterion, a very well criterion. Our scholars, alhamdulillah, they developed us. If sometimes I am telling, you know, some of our scholars, they criticize the earlier scholars, why they said like this, because their mind has become naturalist so much, you know, immersed into physical things in this world, in today's world, they don't see it, they start criticizing those scholars. They cannot reach, you know, the lowest level of those scholars even. Those scholars that came in the early period, because they inherited Islam in purity. But unfortunately, we are not like that. The purity of Islam is preserved. It's not lost. But we did not inherit it, unfortunately, through our education and everything. We corrupted so much. We are corrupted. Because of that, we don't understand it. The criterion they give us is this. You look at yourself. When you do something, at the end, if there is something that comes into existence, you have not done it. It's because it involves creation. Human beings cannot create. It's impossible. And that is why, you know, in English, I am sure probably you are using, right? They will say, he created this thing. He created anu. This is actually shirk, if you say something like this. Humans cannot create. We make things. We make things. Make is sunnah. You know, you bringing things that already exist. But if you do something that nothing comes into existence, in real existence, you have done it. What is that? Choice. When you make choice, there is nothing. It's called amrun i'tibariyun. Ustaz, very difficult, but I mean the technical terms are excellent, right? In Arabic, it's amr i'tibari. It's amr i'tibari, meaning it is something which is relative, not real. So juz ikhtiyar is choice, is amr i'tibari. It's not real. But irada is not like that. Irada is creative. That's why in the true sense, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has irada. We don't have an irada. But Al-Ghazali says in the tashbihan, we can use it. Metaphorically, we can use it for human beings also. Because ikhtiyar resembles will. So, and juz ikhtiyari and juz irada. So you can use it metaphorically, but not in the real sense, because irada involves creation. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes irada, something comes into existence. But when we make irada, nothing comes into existence, right? We want to do something, we fail. We cannot do it, you see? That means we don't have irada. But we have choice. We have chosen it, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He didn't create. So these are, you know, all side issues, have nothing to do with worldview, but of course it is part of our worldview actually. It's part of our worldview. When we continue, inshallah, I'll explain it more. So constructive, but just to explain that, it is constructed in two ways. One, as I said, using the word that I don't like, by itself, the mind creates. That means it is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He runs it. We are not involved in that. Because if He doesn't do, our mind will not work. You know, like our stomach, right? We eat and it works. And we can say it works by itself. But this is shirk actually to say by itself. It is made to work. It is made to work, very good. You can use it, no problem, because our mind is directed to the Creator, to the one who makes it work. Then Islamic terminology, Arabic terminology is always like this. It's always like this, and that's why I said, I wish I could, you know, and you could understand. We all speak in Arabic much better. You see, in the past it was always like that. Inshallah, in future, Muslims can achieve this again. You know, when we have the real, you know, Islamic understanding, we all speak in Arabic again. Yeah, so this, I always explain this, but what can we do, you know? So maybe, who knows, English will become Muslim language also. We will Islamize it in this way. Get rid of these, you know, terminology and use the Arabic ones. And already our Muslim brothers and sisters, they do use it in England, right? So they already use it. So inshallah, it will be like that, spiritual language. So conceptual, so that means its concepts are the bricks. Again, this is tashbih, right? It is a metaphor. Concepts are the bricks of our worldview. So our worldview is made up of concepts, always. The concepts, what kind of concepts? I will give examples as we continue. Then I say unity, that means it's organized very well. It is very well organized, it is very systematic. There are rules, regulations, everything is put into our mind by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not only that, but also run by Him. You know, it is not only like that. The created nature of our mind is run by Him all the time. So that is what, when we see how does He do it, the science that you know, investigates that is called logic, mantiq, right? Logic. So in logic we study that, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is running our mind. You know, when we look at apple, how apple tree, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He creates the apple, we examine and we study the apple tree, right? So it is in the same way. We study our mind to see how these are organized and constructed by concepts, all of them bringing together in a very uniform, harmonized. If there is no harmony, it will be lost. So all these things, how they take place, inshallah, I will try to explain. We'll continue like that. So when it is constructed with concepts in a unity, our mind begins to use that. And works with that. So then let us say, how does that happen? A worldview in our everyday life out of natural fitri process is regulated by two things. One is environment, our environment. I don't know why it didn't move down like that. Sometimes when you put another computer, a worldview arises in everyday life out of a natural, see I put big letters for three, process regulated by environment and also by education. At the beginning it is the environment, but environment can be taken in two senses, physical, social. That means our family, okay? Now, when we see the significance of a worldview, you should understand, you know, the significance of how to educate the children at home before going to school, because their worldview is shaped like that. So this is extremely important. You see, you have to be careful. You know, yes, you know, in today's world, this is something again. What can we do? We start buying. Look at this toy, that toy, that toy. You know, as if everything. This is not so good. When you choose the toys and how much toy, how much entertainment, how much education, even in the early life. Because our educators, they say us that, you know, the first, especially 5 years are extremely important in education, because whatever they perceive, see, learn is never erased, permanent throughout the life. And they make up their behavior. So, because as I said, we behave according to our worldview. There are other effects also, but this is the most fundamental one. We always, act according to our worldview. Always. This is the main thing. But our psychology can affect it, environment can affect it, friends, and so on and so forth. So those factors, they all affect also our behavior, our conduct. But at the center of all these things is worldview. So its function is always like that. So it becomes extremely important. So a worldview functions as a framework within which our mind operates.
So, Professor, don't you think besides these two, environment and education, two more central other parameters are available? The fitra and also did you hear the first part?
Yeah, yes.
Two more like
fitra,
and
yes.
the theory or the
Right.
The
Yes, you are right. Yeah. So we have to consider that also. They become, like the foundation of that. Yeah, the biology in which we are created, right? All these things. But these are the most significant ones that I would like to mention, as because our education, right? So I have to talk about that more. So the function is more epistemological. The function of a worldview, it is the framework in which our mind operates, namely works, right? It is the framework within which our mind operates all the time. It's possible to analyze every worldview, in every worldview, a conceptual unity which has an application in life. You remember we said the worldview itself is a conceptual unity, constructive conceptual unity. But it is not, if we take it as a whole, it is like that. But within it, there are many other like that, conceptual unities in the worldview, the way it is organized. This is not in our hand. Of course, you might say, how do you know? Well, I know because according to our behaviors, and when we analyze, we can see. For instance, I can say something like this.
I have a question, please. I'd like to bring in, you might have heard of the Sheffield argument in behavioral psychology. Okay, sheep and shepherd argument. Like as, for example, the most of people still here are educations. So it comes from, also endorsed by the the people who deal with the neuro behaviors, right?
Yes.
So they have to feel that that's all we can do in terms of the social context or social realities out there. Like we constantly interact with the realities out there. And we get influenced, we engage with it, we take from it, and we give back to it, right? Now the question is what they say actually, I would like to know your response to that, is we can simply choose a good place for the sheep, good grass for the sheep, but we cannot transform a sheep into a lion. Why? Because there is something that comes from the gene. Is the information which emanates in the behaviors.
Yeah.
As you refer to, the innate disposition is actually written on the gene. So how would you, take this in the context, what's the role of a teacher in shaping the behaviors?
If let me say something like this. Our mahiyya, again, I don't like to use the English words. I have to say like that. I hope you understand. Okay, then I have to use the English word. our nature is, it is multi-leveled. At the bottom of the level is hayvaniya level. Then there is beshariya, insaniya, and melekiya. The angelic, in other words, these levels you can translate it into English with one exception. Beshariya you cannot translate. There is no word for it in English. But we have, of course, I derive these concepts all used in the Quran. As you know, قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ. Our Prophet ﷺ was not commanded to say قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا إِنسَانٌ مِثْلُكُمْ. So that means it's different. He is at the same level with us at the Bashariya level. So I will try to explain it on the basis of this, that when we are born with, we are born as animals with the Bashariya, Insaniya and Melekiya bil quwwa, not bil fi'l. We develop them later. They become, they're like seeds. But Haywaniya level is not like that. It is bil fi'l haywan when we are born. You can observe this very well in the children. But alhamdulillah, it is all hikmah, the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fortunately, He doesn't create us, as an adult. It would be disastrous. Because when we come as a haywan, we'll destroy everything. We are not like animals. They always say this, right? The most dangerous animal is human beings. They destroy everything. They are not, sometimes they have pictures, I see, they say, the world without animals, beautiful, very nice. And then the world with human beings, all destroyed. Things like, they have sometimes pictures like that. But because we are animals as a baby, we have no power to do anything. So we cannot destroy. But we attack. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. You're right. That's why the Malaika is saying like that. So as a result, number one, we need the guidance of the environment, but we need the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the divine revelation. If there was no divine revelation, if you don't use that guidance, everything we can destroy. We can become worse than animals. You can see Netanyahu worse than animals. Is he worse or not? You can see how destruction that he is causing. I mean, what they think, it's impossible. No human being can ever think like that. You see the babies, children and so on, how they destroy. We can give a lot of examples from human history, but alhamdulillah, nothing like that happened in the Muslim world. Why? Because of the divine guidance, divine revelation, the rules and regulations built by Islam and the Muslim scholars, that you cannot destroy, you cannot do this, you cannot, restriction is brought. So if you don't have restrictions, humans, kal an'ami bal hum adal, right? So this is very clearly said like that. So as a result, we don't deny those things. DNA and everything is in our, created nature, it's all there. But those are controlled. If you don't control them, yes, you are right, they have all those bad effects. So that is why we have to be careful, education, controlling, and so on and so forth. So this is, we don't deny this. So we should take into consideration this, actually just yesterday I made this statement, that we are born as animals with, bil quwwa, bashariya, insaniya, and melekiya. Those are bil quwwa. If he didn't put those things in our nature, we would be, we'll destroy everything. We would destroy, everything would be destroyed. That is why, you know, the children, as you know, they fight with each other all the time. They say, no, this is mine. So we have to educate, no, explain, and so on. And so gradually, because they are like haywan. But not as haywan in the literal sense that like the other animals. Because they have the bashariya and insaniya fitra also. When you tell them, they understand. They say, oh, okay, this is not good, I shouldn't do it.
So, standard or quality?
Yes. Yeah, so it is, we have to consider this. So, this is very good. Then. Yeah, so if I would like to give an example for this, you know, that we act according to, like an example, when we want to eat something, our eating habit, that is done by a conceptual unity in our mind that supports this habit. That means our culinary culture, right? So our digestive system is universal, right? But it is governed by our culture also. When we develop it, it is manifested in different ways all the time. This, you know, this brings something also in science, especially if you say we have knowledge system, it is universal. Today, everybody in the West, they have, you know, unfortunately, very wrong ideas. They develop, later on they back up from it. They see, oh, dangerous. They used to say that human logic is not universal. From the beginning of Islam until today, there is no Muslim that says this. It is universal. Because it's created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you know why they say like that in the West? They say because Africans are inferior. Their logic is not like ours. So they don't accept some human beings as human beings like them. That's why they defend such you know, distorted doctrines. You know, but we always say today they back up from this. They don't say it anymore. Human logic is universal, but its manifestation is not universal. Microphone.
Sorry,
Okay, it's all there.
I have a question. How do we engage with people who are post-humanist when they say, you know, everything is relative? They're saying that everything exists in relation with each other. And thereby they're saying nothing really exists. It's all relative. Yeah,
very good. I am glad that I have studied, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his bounty on me, studying Western civilization from the beginning. And of course, you know, our Muslim scholars, their perception is so high that because every civilization is built on a worldview. Okay, there is a worldview that leads to the development of that culture into a civilization. The worldview of Islamic civilization is the source is the Quran. Always. It's very easy to prove it because when the revelation came, what did our Prophet ﷺ, he taught the people? He taught only the Quran, nothing else. Whatever is revealed to him, because he was commanded to teach whatever is revealed to him. So as a result, people's minds were shaped by the Quran. The second generation followed the same rules. The third generation, the same rules. The fourth, it continued until our times. But after the 18th, 19th century, Muslims started wavering from this, unfortunately. We saw the West, you know, is so high-level science and so on, start imitating and bringing all those things. It destroyed our minds. So, as a result, when we look at the Western worldview, they say many things. You know, if you don't have the truth, you will always run from one corner to another. Always going to the extremes and never being able to find Sirat al-Mustaqim. Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim, we always say, right? Extremely important, this Sirat Mustaqim, one of the best concepts, again, in Islamic worldview. So we don't waver, from the truth, the Western worldview is based on the corrupted Christian worldview. Corrupted Christian worldview. They will not admit that. Maybe some of them will admit, because when I read their history, they say that, I can give you many references for this, from their own books. When I usually say, I'm not entitled to criticize other civilizations. But if there is someone from that civilization criticizing himself, I will use that. Because that he is saying, I'm not saying it. So I always, whenever I criticize, I don't say. I quote them. That's much better, I think. And that's what you should always do. Because they won't feel good. But if they say it, we don't care how they feel it. Even if they don't feel good, okay. So most Westerners, they say, Ephesus is the cradle of Western civilization. Ephesus? Where is Ephesus? Ephesus is in Turkey. It's near Izmir. If you have time, you can go and visit and see the ruins. Of course, it is ruined, all Greek civilization. It's not Western. Okay, if it is Greek, that means it is based on paganism, Greek pagan religion. Paganism. Then we say, I took this from Copleston, Frederick Copleston. He says, we are coming from Western, Ephesus is our roots. I say, Frederick Copleston, who are you? He's a Jesuit priest. A Jesuit priest, Catholic. He's a Catholic. Would you accept the Greek religion? No, he says Aristotle is pagan. But you see, Muslim scholars borrowed from Aristotle so much, even Al-Ghazali, he never said mushrik to Aristotle. He criticized him, but he never said he's a mushrik. Because there is no revelation when he came. You cannot call him a pagan because he believes in one God only. His conception of God is wrong, very wrong, because there is no guidance from revelation. But he says pagan Aristotle. Our scholars, they say Al-Ustaz al-Awwal. Because we learned something from him, we respect knowledge. Just because of this. I mean, we have to consider these things. This should tell us a lot of things, So it is wrong. It is wrong. Western civilization is based on corrupted Christian worldview. Why do I say corrupted? I'm not saying the Quran says so. Because of Trinity. They destroyed everything. The way they developed it. So because of this, they are wavering from one corner to another corner throughout their history. Always running from one place to another. But in Islamic civilization, we say some of things are relative, some of things are absolute. So we don't reject relativeness. There are relative truth. But there is absolute truth also. But in the West, it is not like that. Some people run, say, no, it is absolute. Some run, no, it is relative. Some says, no, it is something like this. Some, you see, why? Because starting point is wrong. That's why they are wavering. So we don't reject everything just like that. When they say in the West, in Western thought, we have to be careful because it is true, but in a different respect. So if it is wrong, we reject it. There are many wrong things, like naturalism and so on, materialism and things. These are completely wrong. So in the West, it is based on a concept which we say in logic, we say either or. Either or. In our logic, it is based on disjunctive argument, as they call it. Şartiyya munfasila in Arabic, the way this argument is called like that. But ours is not based on that. Our thinking is based muttasila. Şartiyya muttasila. So it can be that one, it can be this one. It depends. Why? Because there is maratib al-wujud. At each level of existence, truth can change. But when you go to that specific level of existence, it is absolute. It will not change anymore. So that means it could be relative, it could be absolute. So we have to consider this.
Some scholars argue that the Age of Enlightenment was actually based on the philosophy of Ibn Rushd. So what went wrong actually?
Yeah, you are right. This is true. Of course, you know, they borrowed, but unfortunately, you know, when they borrowed again, you know, they borrowed the rationalism of Ibn Rushd, but they didn't borrow his spiritualism. That's why they become corrupted again. You know, Ibn Rushd, he respects Ibn Arabi. He doesn't reject it also. That is because he's, you know, he's one of the highest faqih, you know, because he was the qadi. And he wrote Bidayatul Mujtahid, the famous Usul al-Fiqh book that everybody accepts. Can you imagine? You see, these are lost in the West, unfortunately. So because they just went to that extreme rationalism, and they thought Ibn Rushd was rationalist, like he's rationalist, but he's spiritualist at the same time. They think if you are rationalist, you have to reject spiritualist, either or again. You see, but Ibn Rushd is not like that. He says both this and that. See, Islamic logic is based on that. Shartiyya muttasila. If you have time, you know, you can look in logic.
We have around 15 minutes. I think we're just at the beginning of work. We just want to make some progress on work. Otherwise,
but you know, actually, I told most of it in just one slide. Okay, so the rest one, maybe we can go even faster. Just so each one of these, we said, is conceptual unities within worldview is called structures. You remember we said the worldview is a complete uniform structure, but within it there are also such conceptual unities. When those unities become larger, we call them structures. Each structure they act to our worldview like frameworks, like windows through which we look at things. You know, I give metaphors like that. It is easy to understand. Otherwise, you know, you cannot tell that the mind has an eye looking like that and so on. But we are not aware of it. This is the way it looks, you know. So this conceptual foundation of human action, there is a general rule. Conceptual structures are not independent of each other, that we have to know. When we analyze them separately, but it doesn't mean that they work separately. You know, like our body, right? Can you say our stomach works independently of the brain and the brain works independently of the heart? It's not like that. It's a unity. They work in harmony. If that harmony is disrupted, finished. We will die. So it is the same thing. If there is a problem with the structural unity in the mind, we will begin to have mental problems. We'll have mental problems, very, very difficult. It's too difficult to fix them. So this is what I am trying. This, again, this one Turkish word is very good for me to express the function of this worldview. We say usually in Turkish, sometimes, you know, my mother used to say that a lot, and our brothers sometimes, they use it quite a lot, very famous. Dervişin fikri neyse zikri odur. I know fikir, zikr, you already know from Arabic. Dervish is a Persian word. How many left? Only 2 words are Turkish. But what you see, neither Persians nor the Arabs can understand it. Right? So this is the thing. This is the beauty of Muslim languages, right? So we say whatever a dervish, a Sufi, has in his mind, it will become his zikr, to say, comes out, in other words. Worldview is like that. Whatever you have in your mind will be reflected on your behaviors. This is extremely important. So that's what I wanted to explain. So the structures of, we said it is structural unity, right? Constructive unity. How is it structured in our mind? Usually, as you know, when we are born, we don't know anything. We begin to learn. So our mind is made to work. So I have to use like that, right? Our mind is made to work. Usually, the first things that we learn are concrete things. The babies, right? They touch certain things, and probably at the beginning, eyesight is not very strong. Ear is a little bit stronger, but gradually they develop. The strongest thing is touching and the feeling, right? Because when they touch something, in order to understand what it is, they bring to their mouth. And we immediately catch because it's something harmful. So we try, okay, don't, and then they learn what they should learn with touching, what they should learn with their taste, and so on. So this is the way. But when we say learn, what happens when they learn? The mind of the baby builds a concept for it in his mind. Yeah, immediately when touching like that, it is built in the mind. So it is registered, in other words. So it is registered. I will show you later on. These registrations usually take the form like this, behavior, like a point, because each point here, dot, is like a concept. They enter, but you see here, these concepts are logically related to each other. So they are brought together and they form clusters of concepts. They form clusters of concepts in the mind. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He runs our mind for us. And then we learn. So here, the example I give for a behavior is, when somebody dies, we take care of the janazah. How? We take care according to the concepts that we have already. We learned from Islam, from family, how to take care of the body and so on and so forth. And all this, they form a framework. You see all these clusters of concepts. You cannot find the concept of apple in this framework because there has no logical relation. The mind doesn't put it over there. It will put it somewhere else because it's a food item. Food item does not go into taking care of the janazah, right? So therefore, structures are like that, frameworks in the mind are like that. Logically related concepts, they are brought together. And then they form clusters like that in the mind. And when we start doing something, the mind uses those clusters immediately. But I will tell you something. For example, you are hungry and you want to cook something. Are you doing something like this? You say, okay, let me look in my mind which cluster is there and which concept, which one logically. Do you do like that? You don't. It's like as if, again, I'll use another word I don't like, but I have to use it to explain, what can we do in order to explain it. You automatically start buying things, bringing, and you don't think like that. You don't think, say, let me cluster which concept and bring together. If you do like that, you know how long it will take for you to cook? Days, 2-3 days to cook just one food. And you do like that. You see, this is again the miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That He says, no, you just cook, I will make your wine to work for you. You see, so it is like this. So that's why the worldview, whatever you have in your mind, is extremely important. I usually give these extreme examples. It's easy to understand. A Muslim, goes to a supermarket in America to buy things. Obviously, that person will not go to the section to buy pork. He will not even think about it. He will not even look for it. But why? Without thinking, how does he do it? Because the mind, again, works automatically. But the word, I don't like it, automatically. I have to say so you understand it. The automatically, that means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it work for you, so you don't think like that. Because your mind is Islamically minded, there is no concept like that for you to use for your cooking. So this is one thing to explain like that, but then to show the complicated structure of that, when we go into more complications, in the worldview, there are many, many clusters of concepts like that. As we grow up, we learn. All these clusters are formed through our education. When we are educated, we learn. So that means it's a gradual progress, gradually progressing. We can give a lot of examples for this, especially for scientific worldviews. Islamic worldview is scientific, by the way. It is scientific because this is the way it was built, alhamdulillah, before us. Our great scholars in the past, they developed it so much, it is extremely strong if we learn it. If we learn it, if we have our education is like that, I'll say a few things how it should be, so that it will be, proper Islamic kind of an education. So the structures, we said, are frameworks in the mind. Whenever I say framework, I mean window. Just think like that. It's like a window, framework. You look like this, but it is metaphorical. Otherwise, the mind doesn't have any window. And it doesn't have any structures like that, because it is all abstract, very abstract, So these structures, in Islamic worldview, because it is scientific, it developed very well. Today, in the world, global world, you can think about this, but I would like to make a claim. There are only two civilizations that has these 5 structures, the West and Islam. That's why they are attacking Islam, one of the reasons, because they realize its strength. Anyone has these 5 structures, they can give an alternative. We are the only ones that give alternative to the West. There is no other civilization that can give an alternative. And the West is a civilization not like Islam. Islamic civilization is an open civilization, accepts alternatives. And therefore, we don't want to destroy the West. But the West is a closed civilization. It is a wild civilization. They want to destroy it. They don't accept alternatives. That's why they attack all the time. You look at history, you can see this clearly in their history. They always attack. So that's why, but of course their worldview is very strong. They have these 5 structures very well established, and they are still using it. But how long, we don't know. That's another issue anyway. So these structures, life structure, I will explain these, inshallah. If you are asking about these.
I had a very brief question.
Yes.
So I don't know if the answer will be brief. We're plagued with Orientalism, so can we kind of intellectually combat that by Occidentalism from an Islamic perspective?
Yes, definitely. We can do that. And actually, that's what I am trying to do. There are some Muslim scholars also trying to do. I have written quite a lot, but I didn't publish. They'll get very angry, inshallah. But I have to publish it, I just want to collect more. As I said, usually, when I talk about the West, I don't say, just for you, I am saying because we are together. But when I talk in the West, I quote themselves. That's what they say. They say we are barbarians. They say it. So, and I quote, I said, this person says we are barbarians because when they went to Americas, they destroyed everything. There are even books now, they are written, from Al-Andalus to Americas, destruction and construction of societies. This is the title of the work. You can find it and read it. You can see. There are many works like that. Now they are coming out with such works. Destruction and construction. They went to Australia, they destroyed everything. We went to Africa. Africans, they have nothing to do with Muslims. They are happy. They became Muslim. We didn't, destroy their culture. We preserved their culture, language, and everything. Because, the Quran, because of the Quran, of course, the Quran says, your language, your color, your ethnicity is all ayah, the sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to preserve. If something is an ayat, like the ayat of the Quran, you have to preserve. You cannot destroy it. But there are rules, regulations given how to preserve, because some of those cultures are full of paganism, shirk and so on. You have to clean those things. The first thing that the Quran did, as a good example, came to the Arabs, but criticized very severely the Arabs and the Arabic culture. So that this is a good example for other Muslims. You know, that you say, why should I criticize my culture? Because it is Jahiliyyah, and the Quran called them Jahiliyyah. Anything that is before Islam. So this is you know, something that we really need to very good, inshallah, Occidentalism. Some scholars are doing that. They brought up that you know, concept also. So these are the main structures in the mind, you know, largest clusters of concepts. Life structure, world structure is the one that gives our identity. Our identity is based on this one actually, because world structure is made up of abstract concepts. And we usually look at the world, existence, and assign meaning through this structure. That's why I call it world structure. World structure. I can explain this even further. In Islamic civilization, again, I want to give the example. When Islam came, Islam brought many new concepts. Actually, many of these concepts are used by the Arabs already. You know, because if the revelation came with a different language, with a completely different Arabic, they would be confused. You know, they said, "What is this? We don't understand anything." The Quran changed their meaning, and explained. So as a result, inspired them with a transparent worldview. I call it transparent worldview. This is what we need to explain actually. We refer to that. Suppose I take it like this, you know, this is, this whole thing is all the concepts that we have in our mind like this. Suppose, as I said, you know, when I make it metaphorical, concrete, it's easy to understand. So suppose this is our worldview, which means there are many things in it, right? So when we are born, some things that we learn will be things that are related to our life, because this is fundamental. If you don't know how to live, you cannot maintain your life. So the first things that, you know, concepts built in our mind make up our life structure, because they are related to daily life, daily culture. We learn our father, mother, family, relatives, environment, friends, you know, how to live, how to behave, how I should respect my father, mother, and so on. All these things, you know, the daily things, and what to eat, how to eat, you know, manners, and these things. All these things make up clusters of concepts, which I call life structure. Remember, the first structure I said is life structure. The second I said world structure. How is that formed? It is formed with abstract concepts. So because we grow up, you know, when we grow up, obviously we will learn abstract things also. So in the Islamic worldview that was taught, the most fundamental ones, there are hundreds of concepts, hundreds or maybe thousands. These are just examples. What is, of course, Islam is based on Tawheed, Nubuwah, and Hashr. Of course, all these concepts, they have many things, right, in them. When we say Nubuwah, there is the prophet, there is the angel, there is the revelation, right? And the kutub that are revealed before, right? All the books, the revelation, and so on. We have to believe in all these things. But the question is, if you follow logically, very logical, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's telling this to us? Because He says you are responsible, because you will be brought back. That is Hashr, resurrection. You will be brought back, I will question you. You know, I have given you all these things, and then see what you have done, and so on and so forth. So these are, but then this brings the concepts of justice, mu'amalat, the behavior, and so on and so forth, all these things. But if there is no knowledge through which you can evaluate these, they are nothing. So they are all based on ilm. But this ilm is revealed. That is the Quran. But then He says, okay, try to understand it, fiqh. So fiqh becomes our knowledge, ilm becomes revealed knowledge, the divine knowledge that comes. So these fundamental things are very much in a unitary way it was taught, and Muslims, they knew their identity this way. Identity is provided by this world structure, not the whole worldview. Of course, worldview supports it, but the main identity comes actually from this one. So remember when we say, what is your religion? We say, sometimes we were child, of course, we don't know. We say, yeah, I'm Muslim. Say, no, say, Alhamdulillah, I'm Muslim. Right? So this is the way we were taught, from the childhood. All these things, you see, that gives us our identity. Then you say, oh, to be a Muslim is very important. That is why I'm saying, Alhamdulillah. It is not something simple. So you see, these are consciousness, right? The identity. The Muslims usually have a threefold identity: personal, cultural, civilizational. Personal, your daily, Islam, Islam recognizes all of this and puts emphasis on all of these. You cannot separate. You remember when you give zakat, we are told first your relatives. You give zakat if there is a poor. If not, then your close neighborhood. If not, then go outside, right? So it's like that. So you can see this in the identity, right? From personal to the cultural, your environment, civilizational. We are all Muslims. So if someone is hurt in Palestine, I have to go and help. You cannot stop here like that. You need to help, and so on and so forth. Anyway, this is it. And then because as Islam improved, more knowledge, so knowledge concept became very rich and made another structure, that is the world structure. Actually, these three structures is what was taught by our Prophet ﷺ, and it was very clear, very definite. People knew everything. That's why I call it the transparent worldview. It is not scientific. Scientific worldview was developed by Muslims later on, when science started emerging. When I saw this development in Islamic history, I came to this conclusion that always, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, human culture and so on, He gave religion to start the process. But the religion does not sustain the process. That's why Islam put emphasis on knowledge. It is knowledge and science that sustains it. So if it remained as a religion, gradually it would be, diminished. But since it is based on knowledge, it became scientific. So as a result, science sustained it. That's why science is very important for Muslims. That Muslims must study. As you know, there are two types of science according to us. This is clear in our scholars, they made very clear. One type of science is fardu ayn. Every Muslim must study. Every Muslim, that is aqidah. That is our worldview, Islamic worldview. And the second one is fardu kifaya. Both are fard, as you can see. You see, it's obligation. Every Muslim and Muslimah, you see, this is always mentioned like that, right, in the Quran. Not only men, but women also. They have to study, they have to learn. It is fard for all of them. It doesn't say it is fard for men, right? Every Muslim and Muslimah, they have the fardu ayn, fardu kifaya. So fardu kifaya means sufficient number of Muslims should learn. If there is no sufficient number, for example, sometimes I give this, as an example, numbers are good. Suppose, in Turkey, in the whole Muslim world, let us say, when we calculate the need for someone who studies physics, the science of physics, physicists, say we need 100,000 physicists. But we have only 50,000. That means all Muslims are responsible for it, because they have not trained enough number of physicists. They are all questioned. Why didn't you train physicists? Because now you cannot, protect yourself. And you need so many engineers, but you haven't done it. Why? Tell me. Those people, they are like human beings. If they can develop those weapons and so on, why not you? You haven't done it, so you are responsible for it. So these are the things, So as a result, when Islamic civilization became more scientific, more structures, began to be developed in a scientific way. The first one is what I call value structure based on the science of fiqh. So as you can see, it becomes very important. And the other one is based on the Quranic idea of human being. The idea of human being, that is khilafah and amana, all these things, and so on. So it led to the development of very strong political science, very strong economic science. Economic, you see, they have today, if you study history of economics, you can see most of it they borrowed from the Muslims. You know, but then they borrow, but they go to the wrong direction. Either communism, as you see, extremes. They are in constant search. It is like that. So this, that is the one that led to the development of Islamic civilization. Went to the Islamic civilization. So I think I have come to the end. Okay, this maybe with this slide I should.
Yeah, I think that would be great. We can 5 minutes because Dr. Razak is leaving. We'll give 5 minutes to him to get some thoughts. That's why.
If I wanted to show Islamic worldview is like this, you know, this whole expressing all these things, you know, that we have, the world structure. The life structure is universal. Every human being has that. The world structure is very important, and knowledge structure because scientific activities, and the value structure, of course, controlling the wild aspects of humanity as animals. So this is the thing I wanted to say. So this already I mentioned, I think, you know, the foundation of, you know, our worldview that becomes the educational system is obviously based according to the order in which these structures emerge in our life. That is why this is also the criterion for education. In our worldview emerges according to this order, the life structure, world, knowledge structure, and then it goes to the higher levels of learning. So that means in the elementary school or preschooling, you should pay attention to the life structure, the manners and so on, you know, the adab, you know, in Islamic way of adab and living. So then I came up, you know, with this, okay, you know, I have to pass this, unfortunately, because when we apply this to the educational system, we need to go through epistemology of science, because, you know, some theories you cannot directly apply to the system, you have to convert them. So the conversion comes from epistemology. And in the epistemology of science, we say scientists usually use 3 frameworks when they do something, like a painter. They need to identify their perspective. So this, you know, like the painter, he's painting this scenery. He chooses a place from which he looks at it. And then the second thing, he needs to make a frame, because obviously the whole scenery he cannot put on his canvas. So after identifying that, then he goes start painting according to whatever he has in his mind about painting, the idea of beauty, light, color, and so on and so forth. So it has 3 main frameworks for painting. Scientists usually have like that. You know, if you want to train a scientist in a school, we need to pay attention. What is his framework? What is his perspective? You know, what is his understanding of science, and so on and so forth. So this, when we do this, the scientists will have these 3 frameworks: perspective, frame, and the outlook, I call them. Let's give the example of Islamic scientific tradition. The perspective of a Muslim scientist is his Islamic worldview. And obviously the frame will be Islamic scientific tradition that she must learn very well. And then finally the third one is the concepts in his area, whatever he's specializing in. So this is the 3 things. This becomes the educational system. Now we can apply it. Islamic worldview in the elementary education, paying attention especially to the world structure. And then the middle education, Islamic knowledge tradition. That should be taught. So in elementary level, there is no need to teach any science. You don't need to. There is nobody. One of the greatest scientists is Ibn Sina, isn't it? You read his autobiography, he will tell you elementary school, he read the Quran, Hadith, the Kutub min al-Adab, he's using Arabic word, but I don't know which Kutub. I wish he mentioned it, because in the Islamic educational system, the levels are not called first year, second, third, they don't. The levels are determined on the basis of the book that you are studying. That's why they refer to the Kutub. Kutub min al-Adab, as you can see from Adab, that means the manners, right? His understanding of knowledge and so on and so forth, tradition, all of those things. Only when he came to the middle level, still no science. You see, again, fiqh, kalam, aqidah, you see. How come he became the greatest doctor, the greatest philosopher, the greatest astronomer of his time? How come? Only at the university level, you see. Which means the foundation built in his mind is extremely strong, coming from the Quran and Islamic tradition. You see, that is why he was able to deal with Aristotle. He rejected Aristotle's theology completely. Of course, as a scientist, he made mistakes. We are human beings, of course, we cannot run away from mistakes. And Al-Ghazali came, he corrected his mistakes. He criticized him, this is wrong, this is wrong. So science works like that. So in the educational system must follow the example, the model of the worldview. It must, and in a very balanced manner, of course. So today, we don't need to teach in elementary school, no need to mathematics, physics, chemistry, no need, whatever, or, teach Islam only, Islamic worldview in the correct way, the right way also. Only middle school, gradually you enter into knowledge, simple mathematics, simple whatever, science and so on and so forth. At the high school level, you increase the science also, but you never neglect the Islamic background. You see, never neglected. And even in the university level, Ibn Sina is still, he's studying, Arabic grammar, writes on Arabic, share, because that's high level. The meter in share, all those things. He's still on fiqh, he writes high level scientific books on fiqh and so on aqidah. So they never neglect it, never. So it's more holistic approach, in other words. So the education system, that is why Islamic scientific tradition never became harmful for humanity. It will never become harmful unless Muslims follow the example of the West. They can become harmful.